And welcome to the Movie Madhouse. I'm Rob.
I'm James.
I'm Jason.
And our good buddy,
Jake.
yes. How you doing?
I'm good, man.
Yes. You know, we do a little bit of chatting on here, and I do a little bit of chatting on the Vicious Circle about the con scene. How has it been for you last year?
Awful, non-existent would be a good way to say it. It just hasn't been for me in the last year. So I've had to focus on other things, which is not something that I've had to do in the last 10 years or so. So I've rekindled my love for cooking.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Sadly, my extent is hot dogs and craft dinner. That's the extent of my culinary expertise.
Oh, that's all I was talking about too. I mean, I just love making craft dinner. That's all. Also, without having any cons, it's all I can afford. So,
I did want to ask, you did an event during the summer at the drive-in. How did that go?
it actually went really good. We put the event together. We called the London Supermarket. It was an outdoor market with like a Comic-Con themed vendors that we had, good relationships with, and we saw throughout the summer, some of the vendors moved to online and they were selling online, so people were able to make it work for them. But some of the vendors, and we know personally, they couldn't. It just didn't work. They're like, it doesn't sell online. We need that. People need to see things in person. There's an impulse buy, and there's just no market. So we kind of put our heads together, Andrew and I, and we said, how are we going to do something? Ended up talking to the good folks at the Mustang, which we had been doing some movie screenings with them with Shockstock, and said, hey, like, what would it take to get to do an outdoor market here? So they said, well, let's put our heads together, and we put together something, a little package of how we would make it work. We talked to the municipality to see if it passed health guidelines. They said it was it was safe, and we were abiding by all the rules and regulations to do that. So we put it together, and it was very successful. We did it for our vendors. We wanted our vendors to be able to have an opportunity to make some money, and a lot of them did. They were very grateful, and you know what I mean. Like, we always look out for everyone in our Comic-Con family, from vendors to the fans to the guests to other promoters. Is you want to do whatever you can to keep this community alive, right?
Oh, big time. And I imagine the fans must have just loved it, because this is the only real event that's happened.
Yeah. And it was like, we got a bit of backlash online because people were like, oh, this isn't Comic-Con. And we're like, well, we didn't say it was Comic-Con. We're saying it's a market, that we changed the name. And a lot of people were like, coming to our defense, being like, well, what else can we do right now? You know what I mean? And that's what it really was. It was like, well, it's better than nothing. And that's all you get was better. It was a better than nothing year,
Yeah. You take what you can get.
And that's what it was. And you know what I mean? We were super grateful that fans did take a chance to come out, and they supported these vendors and these artists that we had brought in, because a lot of them, they needed it, and they still need it. I mean, this coming year, we were already looking at outdoor options for everything, because there's no guarantee that anything's going to go back to normal anytime soon.
What are your plans? Because we know CKX and Shockstock are very close, if not the same weekends usually. Yeah. Have you already looked at alternate dates for that? Because I know we have.
We are in a position right now with Shockstock where we are unable to look at alternate dates, because the hotel is not going to offer us any until they know that they can uphold them. It's a lot of work on their end to move everything, because we also book the entire hotel, so they move all the bookings and then have to do it again, because this May would be the second time. So a third time, they don't want to do it a third time until they know that they can actually host it. And also their the salesperson at the Ramada, it hasn't even been working since March of last year. So they were basically volunteering to do it the first time in hopes that they were going to go back to work, and they haven't been back to work. So we're looking at we're looking at doing something. We just don't know what yet and or when. But we actually, the weekend that we were doing Shock Stock, we potentially could be doing a different, unrelated outdoor event elsewhere. But it's not. It has nothing to do with anything that we're talking about on the show.
Just another event. That's good though.
Just with something, yeah. And I mean, a lot of them have to be, food related, food shows. So we do the Hot Sauce Expo
Nice.
in March. So that will probably get pushed to May, and we'll probably end up doing that as an outdoor event.
Jeffrey, he says, any attempt at anything really during this time should be praised by all. And see, he's one to talk. We had to do our film festival last year at a drive-in.
Yep.
And Jeff, and he's with the band Fighting Grace. They played before the film showed for our event. So yeah, you improvise, you create.
And you make it work. And that's all you can do right now is just make it work.
Amazing says Jake from the Dr. Steve-O Christmas special.
The one and only.
That's right. There's a credit for you.
Yep.
Now, today, though, we are here to talk about the top 10 B-grade horror movies with Jake from Shockstock.
Yes.
It seems so fitting. Now, Jason, you had a precursor you wanted to toss out.
Well, okay, and maybe I'm wrong, but I know I say this every week that I struggle and whatnot. I really struggle with this because of what is the definition of a B movie.
I agree 100%. We should lay those rules down because, Rob, you and I were talking about this too. And if you, the Google results for what is a B movie is incorrect.
Incorrect.
That. Absolutely incorrect.
Yep.
So the criteria I worked with, was, somewhat under the radar, kind of cult following ish.
Okay.
As you'll see, generally lower budget.
Yes.
Okay. And cheesy as all hell. Cheese is a huge factor for me for what I qualify as a B movie. Now, there are some B movies that are serious. They take themselves serious, and that's fine. But that's not what we were going for with this topic.
You're talking camp factor.
Yes.
Campiness.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. And you know what? That's a pretty good guideline. I wanted to say like limited or no theatrical release would be another one.
That goes with the under the radar cult following.
Right, yeah. I mean, if a movie is hitting number one at the box office and it's made with a nominal budget, I mean, it's not a B movie. And if it's made by a studio with, a $15 million budget, it's not a B movie. I don't care. And usually they're not. We were talking about Slither, James Gunn's Slither. I think is a masterpiece. As a AAA grade movie.
It smells really good.
Yeah, but it comes up as a B grade.
Yeah, well, it's not.
Yeah.
Well, I think some of my list is going to be questionable under this topic, but I counted it, so we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
Jason looks like a caterpillar.
That's because I am all snugged up in an Udi. I am warm, okay? It's chilly here, and I can't control the thermostat, so I'm wearing my wife's Udi, and I am all snug like a bug in a rug.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
We're not judging you too much.
Now, how does this go? We each run off our top 10, or do we do like
one by one, spiral all the way down to the number one?
Yep. Okay. And we start with our guests. So, Jake, what's your number 10?
Oh, I got to start at the bottom?
Start at the bottom, work our way up.
Okay, my number 10 on the list is a movie from Japan called Wild Zero from 1999, starring the great Japanese punk band Guitar Wolf.
I don't know that one.
Nope.
Oh man,
I've never heard of that.
There's a punk band battling zombies, and there's like transgender love story subplot and alien spacecrafts getting sliced in half with samurai swords. It's an absolute balls to the wall, amazing action-packed thrill ride of a movie made on a shoestring budget, made, with absolutely no intended audience. Like it was made for fans of this punk band and I guess fans of B horror movies. The influences are there, they're on the sleeve. But yeah, it's a little bit of Dawn of the Dead, a little bit of Crying Game, and a whole lot of punk music. So that's my number 10.
That is awesome. I gotta see that one.
Yeah, I think I'll have to try and track that one down.
Yes, Wild Zero. Okay. And this is the one thing we love about these lists. You find out so many films you either forgot about or never heard of.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, let's see. Jeffrey says, is this a movie or the music video for I Believe in a Thing Called Love by the Darkness?
It's a 90-minute music video, and it's way more graphics.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jason, number 10.
Number 10. You know what? I'm gonna call an audible, and I want to shuffle this one out here. I'll slip that one into my honorable mentions, and I'm gonna throw in. Now I don't know the year. I'm gonna throw Jason X in there. You know,
I almost did.
I totally missed it on this list, and it needs to be in here somewhere. So I'm gonna throw Jason X. Sorry, Rob, I don't know the year, but it's Jason X. It's probably the cheesiest of the entire Friday the 13th franchise. It's utterly ridiculous, and I love every second of it. And Tony Todd was great in it.
Yeah, no doubt. 2001. And Jake, we have you to thank for that constant little rib that we keep pulling on Jason. When we
Which
came
one?
to Shop Stock the first time, we met Tony Todd, and we're talking to him, and that's where Jason went up to him and said, "You were great in Jason X." And Tony's like, "Oh, nice." And
He wasn't in that.
He was not even in Jason X.
Yeah, you went over my head when you said it on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right.
I'll never live it down, so I might as well own it.
Yep.
So who did he play in Jason X? Jason? He was
No,
he was Kane Hodder's stunt double or what?
maybe. No, I got him confused with, I think it's Peter Mensa. He played Brodsky.
Yep,
So yeah, I got them mixed up, and
happens.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
at least it wasn't Lawrence Fishburne, right? James, number 10.
My number 10 is from 2008, and I think most people should be familiar with this one. It is Zombie Strippers.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
I'm familiar. I never actually watched it.
I did.
It's pretty amusing. It fits this category to a T, but it has the right amount of cheese to make your sandwich. Jenna Jameson, Tito Ortiz, Robert Englund,
Right.
and I think no, it's not Tony Todd. It's
Well played,
I
sir.
can't. I can't find him, but I don't know. There is a black actor in a military role. I just can't remember his name. Yeah, no, it's a good time for sure. Where it's the only time where they portrayed the fact that becoming a zombie made you better at something. In this case, it was stripping.
I remember that.
You think it's stiffen them up a little bit, but
I forgot about that one completely. It would have been on the list.
if you want to see another great independent stripper zombie B movie, there was a film we played at Shockstock one year called Peelers. That was it took place in a strip club and had some strippers versus zombies, and not so much. They weren't doing so much stripping as they were ripping. But
nice.
it's another great zombie stripper movie, and I got to give a shout out because the filmmakers gave us the opportunity to play it, and I gotta take every chance I get to give them a little shout out to.
This
Honorable
is
mention.
your next top 10 list.
There we go.
Zombie stripper movies.
Yeah.
When I do my list, I go by rewatchability with everything. Like, how many films in this category do I watch on a regular basis?
I'm with you on that.
Oh, that's definitely part of my list here for sure.
So my number 10, it goes back to 1954. And this is one of my favorite Universal monster movies. It's The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Okay.
I never got around to watching that one.
Over and over and over again.
And you know what? The great thing about those movies is again what you were saying, the camp factor. But in no way was that movie intended to, get audiences roaring in their seats. And back when it played, people were terrified of that thing.
Yeah.
It was a genuine. There was nothing B about that movie. It downgraded over time, you would say, but definitely a good addition. And I don't think I put any of the classic Universals in here. So
That's the only one that hits my list. But I even loved in the new Mummy, when they did the throwback to it, you see the claw of the creature in a jar when they walk through the lab. When
Yep.
they're trying to start that dark universe.
Yep.
And it made me think about it, and it started me rewatching it again, so it worked. Okay, number 9, Jake.
Number 9, I'm gonna my first trauma movie on the list. So from number 9, I'm gonna go all the way back, 1976, Bloodsucking Freaks.
There we go.
Oh, nice.
And Bloodsucking Freaks is, I think, the only one on the list that I would say is both a B horror movie and a piece of high art all in one.
I have to confess, I've only seen it once, but I had a blast watching it.
Watch it again.
I've never seen that one, but the only reason I'm aware of it is because on the Cabin Fever commentary, Eli Roth had said that that was his first involvement with trauma, where he was hired to do a commentary track for that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That movie is, and I mean, that movie is, has been copied numerous times. There's so many movies that pay homage to Bloodsucking Freaks and to Sardou and Louis de Jesus. And there was a great, what was I watching? If you watched the Last Drive-In last season, the Chris Jericho, the wrestler, was on with Joe Bob Briggs, and he cited it as his all-time favorite movie.
Oh, wicked.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to revisit that one too.
Definitely.
Jason, number 9.
Interesting coincidence when you mentioned trauma, because my number 9 is 1984's The Toxic Avenger.
There you
I
go.
never saw that one.
Oh, it's gloriously cheesy. I had to revisit it because I hadn't seen it in a very long time. I revisited it last year, I think it was. Oh, I love it's just so good. I'm leery that they're doing a remake,
I heard that.
I can't wait.
but is Lloyd Kaufman directly involved in the remake?
Lloyd Kaufman is involved, I think, as an executive producer, and he has said that the script is good. He has said that he trusts the director and the writer to take the reins and make a great movie out of it. And I just want to see more Toxic Avenger on the big screen.
I need to
know.
go to the sequels though. I only ever watched the first one, so I've never watched any of the sequels.
Go straight to 4.
Go to Citizen Toxie.
Go to Citizen Toxie. No, 2 and 3 were shot back to back. They were actually one movie that he overshot part 2 and split it up into 2 and 3, which Lloyd Kaufman has a habit of doing that, as shooting too much and then breaking his movies up now. But
So he technically did it before Back to the Future.
yeah, yep, absolutely. And he's but they're just there's a lot of filler in those movies.
Okay.
A lot of exposition, a lot of filler, and I mean they're great. They're great fun. But Citizen Toxie is like a bang on sequel, updated for the newer age of trauma.
All right, I'll definitely just jump to that one then.
I like Tromeo and Juliet.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
James, number 9.
My number 9 is a film from 2005. It's 2001 Maniacs. bunch of college students on the way to Daytona Beach take a detour through Georgia and get massacred by a bunch of ghostly redneck town. And it has a cameo by Eli Roth's character from Cabin Fever.
Yeah. I think that may have been the only reason why I watched 2001 Maniacs. I saw Blood Feast 2 in Toronto at a preview screening, and everything after that, it was like anytime anyone makes a sequel to a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie, I'm staying far away. But I watched 2001 Maniacs, and
It's pretty good.
it's a wild movie. It's a wild movie for sure.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I do another show called The Figure Gore, and it's about wrestling and horror mixed together.
Yep.
The one guest we have on all the time is Madman Pondo. He's a deathmatch wrestler.
Yep.
He is the extra from hell in that movie because he made their continuity just out the window. Because he's extra, he's background, and anytime they said we need people, he was the first one there, whether his character should have been there or not. So you can find me about 25 times in that movie. Half the time I'm technically not supposed to be in that area. That's the sign of a good cheesy a B grade movie right there. But
Yeah.
see, and I'm now going to go the other way. My number 9 is from 1982, and it's from Frank Henenlotter.
Oh,
Basket Case.
that's on my list. I
What
gotta have
number?
to.
Oh, I've heard of that.
What number is it on yours, Jake?
6.
6. All right.
But I'll switch it. I'm gonna switch it out. I'm
Yeah.
prepared for this.
All right.
Ooh,
Yeah.
he's got a
Basket Case-
sideboard.
Basket Case is beautiful, just for that little dude. You know.
No. And you know what, the great thing about a Basket Case, as well as a lot of Frank Henenlotter's work and a lot of the work that came out of New York in the 70s, was that the city itself had so much character to it that, you know, and I guess I'll probably be retouching on that again in the future, but New York City was the place to be to make horror movies in the 70s. I'll tell you that.
Oh, big time. And it's not the last time we'll see Frank on my list. So he's king in there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, number 8. Jake, what you got?
My number 8 is from 1972, and it's a movie called Blood Freak. And Blood Freak was I saw it first time on Something Weird Video, and it was it's a drug scare film disguised as a horror film, and it's about a guy who eats turkey laced with an evil drug, and then he becomes a giant turkey-headed monster who has to drink the blood of drug addicts to survive. And
Jesus.
it's got Jesus undertones. It's got a lot of got a lot of religious in there, and it's just absolutely it's like taking drugs yourself when you watch it. So it's definitely a trip. It's a lot of fun, and like again, campy as hell.
Sounds kind of bonkers.
It's absolutely bonkers.
James, did we just suddenly have product placement here? I saw you pouring your drink, and you just got the name right there.
Yeah, labels out.
Good man. Blood Freak. I gotta check that out. That's
Absolutely, definitely check it out.
And see, these are the kind of movies I love watching on a Saturday, like all day and night. You know. Just oh yeah. Okay, Jason, number 8.
My number 8 from 2015, Deathgasm.
Yeah.
God, that movie is so much fun. Yes, it's derivative of like Evil Dead, particularly. It borrows heavily from that, but it was so much fun. A nice modern rendition with some metal music all mixed into there. It's badass, but still cheesy as all hell.
Yeah. I only left it off this list just because I didn't want to repeat myself.
Fair enough. Well, in that case, James, what's your number 8?
My number 8, my number 8 is one letter, repeated 6 times. This movie is from 1973. It's called.
Okay.
It's where a scientist is slowly turning a man into a snake, and the guy is unaware of it, but he keeps giving him injections. He thinks he's helping him out in like experiments and stuff, but in reality, he's slowly turning him into a snake. And most of the movie is pretty cool because it's gradual, the transformation that's happening. It's not until the very end where it's like, boom, and he literally turns into this little snake crawling on the grass or something. Prior to that, it's like a body transformation that's happening, and it's pretty cool. So most of the movie is good for being early 70s. And it stars Strother Martin and Dirk Benedict.
Dirk Benedict?
So you got
Wow.
yeah, A-Team and Cool Hand
Battlestar.
Luke, I guess. And, yeah, Battlestar, yeah. And the guy from Cool Hand Luke.
I can't believe that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that I gotta see.
I saw it once as a kid and thought it was cool, and then I saw it again as an adult, and I thought most of it was cool.
Most of it?
Because it's just, as I said, it's just like most of the transformation, the makeup they use on him is pretty cool, and it's not till the very end where it's like, boom, and it's a tiny snake. I thought it was going to be like a big man snake or something, but I think they ran out of money or something. I don't know.
Movie magic. All right, my number 8 is the other Linda Blair classic from 1981, Hell Night.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I picked that up not-
The other Linda Blair classic. I thought you were going to say Savage Streets, but that's not really a horror movie.
Oh.
That's about Savage Streets.
Hell Night is a pretty good movie. When they put out that collector's edition, like all the Shout Factory ones, I snatched that up.
Oh, nice. So you're the one I got to bother to watch again. It's hard
well,
to
no,
find.
Yeah,
Okay.
I already got rid of it because it didn't really hold up. But it's pretty good.
Yeah, you got rid of it. We don't need to hear from you anymore. Dang it, we see his video. All right, number 7. Jake, what do you got?
For number 7, I'm still in New York City, but a little bit of a different way. We're going with 2003's Nikos the Impaler, a.k.a. Violent Shit 4. German filmmaker Andreas Schnaas decided to, with the help of a guy named Joseph Zazo, who produced the film, brought Andreas Schnaas over to New York to shoot a movie with Felissa Rose, Lloyd Kaufman. I think Debbie Rochon's in it. The movie's about a museum. Somebody attempts to rob a museum, and they end up freeing this giant Romanian demon named Nikos the Impaler, who kills everyone. He resurrects Hitler, and then he goes out in the streets and he kills a bunch of people in a gay bar. He kills a bunch of people in a movie theater. He just kills everybody. Shoots lasers out of his eyes, and it's absolutely balls to the wall crazy, full of violence, nudity, everything else. Andreas Schnaas is he's an auteur of filth. The violent shit movies have to be seen to believe. They're absolutely the lowest quality video wise. He's shooting them on like consumer grade camcorders, but since he was like a little kid, he was building, fake heads and fake bodies. People are being split in half right down the middle, and their heads carved off and their faces ripped apart, and it's just so over the top gory. And I remember being so excited when that movie came out, and buying a copy. Then they sent me a poster that was like signed by the whole cast and everyone in it. And I eventually, obviously met Felissa Rose and spoke to her and gave her high praise for that movie. And I don't think anyone prior to me had actually ever said, "Man, I loved you in Nikos the Impaler." But it is a great movie, and from what I hear, it's pretty hard to find now. The DVD's worth some money. I think I flipped my copy to my buddy Hoagie a few years ago, and now I kind of want it back actually after going through this list, because I was like, man, it's got to be on there somewhere, and I gotta get it.
I think this is the ultimate indication of a good B-grade horror is when you get to IMDb, it's 3.7, okay, and half of the credits don't have pictures.
Right.
That
Oh yeah.
is the best time.
I think I don't know if I'm correct on this, but I'm pretty sure that the film would have probably been cast with people who lived in the area who were fans of his German movies, who were like, "Oh my God, this guy's coming! I have to be in his movie." None of them were actually actors, except for key cast and like Tina Kraus, I think, is in it, and there's a whole bunch of cameos, but that's all it was cameos and buddies and lots of gore and blood.
Yeah, we got this person for one day. What can we do? Yeah,
Exactly. Put them in the shower, strip them naked, and then pour blood on their head.
Yep, nice.
It's perfect.
I gotta see that. Jason, number 7.
Number 7, 1985, Return of the Living Dead.
Oh,
Yep.
It's a classic.
Absolutely.
It still works, and come on, it took Night of the Living Dead, a serious zombie horror, and gave it the cheese, and it works across the board.
There's so much that is so cool about that film, and I can't believe I left it off my list. Dang it.
I'm surprised by that too. You're
Man.
disappointing us, Rob.
I'm disappointing myself. This is just so sad.
There's just too many. There's just too many films to go through. So it's at least it's being acknowledged here. That's what we got to be thankful for, right?
Exactly.
This is the top 40 because there's 4 of us. So if it's not making somebody's top 10, then something's going on.
James, number 7.
As a coincidence, my number 7 is from 2005, but it is Return of the Living Dead 5, Rave to the Grave.
Oh,
Uh-oh. I think you heard him.
The reason I find this one funny is because aside from the whole rave, and they're using the trioxin drug as a rave drug instead, not knowing that it's going to turn them into zombies. There's a subplot of this reanimated corpse getting out of this container and hitchhiking down the road trying to get to the rave, and he's actually holding up a sign on the side of the road. And I just thought he was hilarious.
I actually forgot that one existed. Okay.
yeah. It's one of those movies you wipe out of your brain and hope to never remember again. Gosh.
Oh, it's funny. It's funnier than the first one. I would say maybe not as funny as Return of the Living Dead 2, though. Return of the Living Dead 2 has some funny lines.
Yes. I think it's good up until 2.
Three is pretty.
Three is awesome.
3 is pretty good.
3 is like
4.
3 is like it becomes a whole nother genre of film. That movie's got like that whole BDSM undertones and the sexy zombie chick that you want to fuck, but she's dead. And like,
what's the plot for 3 then?
The plot for 3 is a love story.
Oh, Melinda Clarke.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, wait a minute. What's number 2 then? Because I was thinking that was number 2.
Number 2 is very similar to number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's the one.
You just have a lot like the talking dismembered head.
Yeah. Number 2 is like the kids that are sneaking around in the graveyard, and then they release the trioxin, and the one kid is the bully dies, and then everybody, they have like recycle the cast in different roles, and
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. 3 good. I like 3.
Yeah.
2. No.
2 is a good movie too. I mean, like they all have their own merits, I suppose. It's just 5 was. I was surprised 5 brought up today.
James surprises us a lot. Okay. My number 7 is my other Frank Henenlotter film from 1990, Frankenhooker.
Yep.
I love that film.
I love James Lorenz. James Lorenz is a straight up like amazing person. He's a great guy. You'll see him very, very soon at a shock stock near you because we already gave him gas money to drive up and see us.
Nice.
And we wanted to do a Frankenhooker reunion, but Patty Mullins turned into a horrible, atrocious human being on the internet, and everybody shunned her. So now we have to kind of play political here and say, sorry, we can't. Plus, the other thing about Patty Mullins is we invited her 3 other times and paid for flights, and she flaked on us 2 out of those 3 times. Oh. Twice for Shockstock and once for Horrorama, and she never got on the plane. So,
Yeah, you got to kind of wonder after that.
Yeah, I think that she doesn't want to say something, but I don't think she can get into Canada.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the border would be fun.
Yeah, but the movie's great. Frankenhooker's great.
Oh, yeah, I have a blast watching that.
Yeah, but I think she's been smoking the super crack.
That's what happens once you're a Frankenhooker.
That's right.
All right, we're at number 6. Jakes, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is my replacement for this list. So we're going to, So instead of Basket Case, which I think is on the list for me in spirit, but because it's already been said, we're going to swap it out, and I'm going to go with the 1986 absolutely crazy movie. I got a copy of it actually right here. Spookies. Have you seen it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Spookies is like the movie Spookies, and this is actually, it seems shrink wrapped. It says Spooky. This is actually not a good copy of the movie. This is a bootleg of the movie, and I have no idea who made this bootleg of this movie. But for a long time it was unreleased, and I had a 35 millimeter print of Spookies. We used to play it all the time at in Toronto and other places. It's been recently re-released, so you can check it out here, right here, by the good folks at Vinegar Syndrome. They gave it the deluxe, beautiful treatment, wonderful slip cover, and but it is a clusterfuck of a movie, and I say this in the nicest way. It was actually produced and shot by these two guys who had a producer interject and didn't like what they were doing. A guy by the name of Frank Farrell, I believe, and he made them change a whole bunch of stuff. They ended up quitting their own movie, and then he hired somebody else to come in and shoot a bunch of scenes to make it a feature length again, because he cut out the stuff he didn't like. So then you have like this serious haunted house movie with this amazing creature effects, and then you have like a guy with like kitty cat makeup on and a fish hook for a hand who's like meowing at a kid running around looking for his birthday cake, and it's two different plots. They're trying to make them together, and it holds
Also known as a Friday night.
Yeah, and it holds a very special place in my heart, not only for being a movie that I remember finding and watching on VHS and absolutely loving as a kid, because literally every scene there's a different monster. There's a different creature. It's not like a haunted house where there's like a monster in the basement. No, there's like muckmen in the basement. There's a ghoul in the cupboard. There's a giant spider down the hall. There's a gargoyle. There's a zombie, a weird kitty cat man, a lich. There's like, it's just nonstop. There's a gremlin. There's everything. Every monster is in it. Everything is in it all the time. Ouija boards. It's just batshit crazy. It's a lot of fun, and and the story behind it's a lot of fun too. And the other thing that holds close to my heart is one time when I was very young and very naive, I participated in the production of a feature film myself. And a similar thing happened where it was originally supposed to be an anthology, and I shot a segment, and then the producer ended up saying, the other people bailed, you've got to take your segment and somebody else's segment and make a whole movie out of it. And it didn't work. It didn't work. It never works. So It was terrible.
Oh man, that sounds like a blast.
It is a blast. I would ultimately it is a lot of fun because it's, you know what I mean? Like I think that it's almost got a Criterion like release now, so I was hesitating putting it on the list because I mean, it really is. I mean, I guess you could say it's a B grade movie, but I mean, to me it's AAA. It's high grade. It's beautiful.
Would you look at it? That's an after effect. Look at the initial release. You know,
it got released on home video one time by Sony, and it's never been was never followed up. It went 25 years without seeing any kind of DVD, anything, and I think it wasn't until I started bootlegging it that on a grand scale, I should say, that somebody stepped in and said, "Hey, legally, you got to stop selling those movies," and then they ended up putting it out in a good release. So. And I'm very grateful that they did not pursue legal repercussions on that one. But
it sounds like they were very nice to you.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say they used some of the elements that I had, because I actually had the 35 millimeter print of the film, which I had scanned in high definition. So when I released this DVD, it was the best quality version anyone had ever seen. And then when the other company, they needed to use some of the sound elements from my transfer, because some of the sound elements that they had weren't as good as mine. So then they ended up, so there's a little piece of my my work on that Blu-ray.
That's awesome.
Uncredited. And I mean, uncredited because I didn't legally have the right to have that release anyway. So it's theirs. They can have it. It's fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, Jason, number 5. I need to see you top that story.
You mean number 6?
Yeah, we're on 6 still.
And I ain't got no story. Now I do have to adjust this here because I just realized my number 6 is not actually a horror movie. So I'll take that one out. Put another
Showgirls.
Mention. No,
Oh,
that is
man.
a horror movie.
I love that movie.
So my number 6 is going to be one of my honorable mentions here. 2007's My Name is Bruce. such a fun flick about Bruce Campbell getting hired to come to a small town convention, but they believe he actually is Ash. And there is
I used to
evil
own
spirits
this, but I
coming out
never
of the
watched it.
mines, and they
Yeah.
want Ash to save them. But he's not Ash, he's Bruce. And yeah,
This is the horror version of Galaxy Quest. Is that what I'm hearing?
essentially,
Yes.
Okay, I gotta watch this.
it's
Isn't there like a robot in that one too? There's a robot Ash.
I feel like there was, yes. It's been a while since I watched it, but I believe there was
No,
something.
no, that was Man with Screaming Brain. That you're the.
That's right, yes.
My name is
That was
Bruce. My name is Bruce. Is the samurai monster or whatever, right? It's like
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It looked like a weird samurai thing. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, I know what I'm watching tonight.
It's goofy, but yeah, your analogy of the Galaxy Quest thing, it's absolutely that. They think they're bringing Ash in.
Yeah.
Okay, show's over. I gotta go watch it. James, number 6.
My number six is from 2007, starring Billy Zane. It is called The Mad.
Mad?
The Mad.
Yeah, The Mad. It's sort of Billy Zane plays a doctor, and his daughter stop at a truck stop, and a local farm that supplies the meat to the local restaurant has been infected with mad cow, and this basically turns into a zombie apocalypse kind of thing. And I wasn't expecting anything from it, and it's pretty damn funny.
Point of order: is this the prequel to Zombieland?
No.
Just asking.
No, I remember
No.
seeing this on like the Movie Network or something like that. Like, I don't. Yeah, I forgot what that movie was even called. But that is the meat like moves around and stuff too. Does it not?
Yeah, it's like glowing or something. Yeah, I had a couple of
Giant
these
red
movies.
flag.
One of them was called The Mad, and the other one was called the Rage. And The Rage had Andrew Divoff in it, and wasn't very good. But The Mad is pretty funny.
No. If your burger's moving or glowing, don't eat it.
Well, yeah, you'd be afraid of.
Says you.
You bite into the burger and the burger bites back. What?
Then it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Alrighty, mine is from 1977. One of the best for Michael Berryman. The Hills Have Eyes.
I never saw the original. I watched a bit of it, and it was just like, this isn't. Oh,
Oh no.
Yeah.
the remake is amazing.
You got to
Remake's
watch
good.
the sequel, Hills Have Eyes Part 2, with the they recap the first movie through the perspective of the dog, the family dog, so you get the dog flashback.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible. But Hills Have Eyes Part 1 is great. But I would say again, like that's a tough one because I consider that movie like a beautiful movie. It's beautiful.
Oh,
it's
big
so
time.
good. It's so good.
But this is what I mean. Afterwards, yeah, people are realizing what it is.
That's right. That's right. In a different time.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, Jake, what do you got for number 5?
Number 5, I'm going to give a shout out to a buddy of mine, Greg Lamberson. Do you know Greg? You would know Greg.
Well, I know Greg.
Yeah, so we're going to go back to 1988. Greg Lamberson's, I think, was feature debut, Slime City.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, Slime City is again, it's one of those movies that just came out of New York and had everything that you wanted in that era. People melting and mutants and gross. You know what I mean? Like, and everything had that wonderful 16 millimeter grain to it, which even the film grain as a kid would like disturb you and frighten you because you felt like you were watching a snuff movie.
Yep.
And and it's post-apocalyptic at the same time, but it's really not post-apocalyptic. It's just what the ghettos of New York look like. But me growing up on a farm up in Waynfleet had no idea, and I thought I was watching a scary version of Star Wars.
Mad Max.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I have a Greg Lamberson film as one of my honorable mentions. Didn't
Yep.
quite make the top 10, but I have Killer Rack.
Killer Rack's a
honorable
great movie.
mention.
Yes.
I'm unfamiliar with Greg Lamberson at this point. I think.
Yeah, he runs the Buffalo Dreams Film Festival. and he's a fairly prolific filmmaker.
Author too.
And an author, yeah, well, of course, yeah, and he had a film that was an official selection of Shockstock this year. We didn't get to play it because it ended up getting a release before we were able to have a festival, so that was kind of unfortunate. But check it out if you get a chance, and it is called, what is it called? It's got the lighthouse.
Widow's Point.
Widow's Point. Widow's Point.
Johnny.
Craig Schaefer.
He was a producer on Johnny Gruesome.
Yeah, he wrote the book Johnny Gruesome.
Oh.
Yeah, and he directed that film, I guess, too.
Rob talks about that.
Yeah,
I think.
I've got the soundtrack.
He did Snow Shark.
He did a shark movie. Everybody has to do a shark movie.
yeah.
His number 5 is a shark movie, right?
It's gotta be.
No,
Oh.
no, it's not.
Took a stab.
Yeah, it's called Jaws.
You're getting the mom one.
Okay, now this is where my top 5 is where things are going to get a little questionable. So please bear with me. Just remember,
As I said, Jaws.
I did not watch a lot of horror movies growing up. I was a wuss. I didn't really grow an appreciation for horror movies, particularly the B and the schlock and the camp and the cheese and all that, really until starting doing this podcast. Shockstock really opened my eyes to this stuff. Full shout out there. So now things are going to get questionable, but my number 5 is 1986's Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah,
Great movie.
almost made my
sure.
list.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? That movie is almost the epitome of what a B movie is, though, when you think about it. I mean, you got one of the greatest, most prolific horror writers of all time with one of his most, cherished stories, directing it himself, and he makes an absolute utter piece of crap movie out of it.
It's a cocaine-fueled fever dream.
Yeah. That's what it is.
I love every second of that film. The soundtrack, of course, crushes AC/DC.
And the Joker on the grill.
That is the Green Goblin, not
Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Brian Haskell asked, "Did anyone mention this stuff?"
Oh, I almost did.
No, but Larry Cohen should get a shout out.
I almost put the stuff on.
Yeah. I almost wanted to include it, but it's been I know I saw that one. My cousin made me watch it way back when. I just don't remember enough of it to include it. But Maximum Overdrive it just holds a special place in my heart, really.
Absolutely,
because it's one of the few movies in that genre that I did watch willingly back in the day. So it had to make the list.
I watched it for the first time just a few years ago, and it has a fun element to it.
Yeah, cars coming to life. How could you go wrong, right?
I think I would have had a lot of fun watching Stephen King cringe in the theater as people threw tomatoes at the screen. That's what I would have liked.
I like revisiting every once in a while, just out of the blue. I'll revisit his commercial or his introduction to it.
Yep.
Where it's him standing in front of the bright lights. It's so creepy. He's a weird looking dude.
Yeah, he is a weird looking dude. He's a weird dude. And you know what? It shows in his writing. That's what makes him so great.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. James, what you got for number 5?
My number 5 is from 1989. It is the original that started the franchise. It is Puppet Master.
Oh, yes.
Now, the rest of the franchise, I can't speak for because they really go downhill in a big hurry.
Whoa.
But I find a lot to admire in the first Puppet Master movie.
You're wounding Jake today.
Which
two groans you hit him with.
Which one of the Puppet Masters do you think actually measures up to this?
Number 3 is the best Puppet Master in the series.
Oh, the one that goes back to Nazi Germany?
100%. Number 3, then number 1, then number 2, and the rest of them you can just toss away. But
number 3 isn't bad. I mean, it oh. No, it's not bad.
It's got Richard Lynch in it. Richard Lynch.
I'll give you that. He did a good job.
Yeah. He's good in anything. All right. I'm okay. I'm recovering. But I do. You know what? I watched Puppet Master like a week ago with my 11-year-old son. He wanted to watch a horror movie. So, and Puppet Master, the first Puppet Master movie, like one thing that and I mean, part 3, you've kind of already built that mythology, and it kind of plays into the idea of Puppet Master, I think, better than the first movie does, because the first movie has that kind of psychics and the latent power and resurrecting the dude. It's not really about the puppets. Part 3 is definitely about the puppets, and they're killing Nazis.
Yeah.
You know, that's what really hits the tone with me. But part 1, again, it's like, as a standalone movie, it's very, very, like, well made. It's a great movie.
What I didn't like about number 2 was, on number 1, they introduced the Andre Toulon as a sympathetic guy, and then number 2, they resurrect him and he turns into the villain, and then number 3, they go back to the Nazi Germany and he's the sympathetic guy again.
Yeah.
So
it's like Magneto.
Well, I mean, but he wasn't resurrected in Nazi Germany. He was the real deal. So maybe the real deal, Toulon was a nice guy, and once you resurrect him from the dead, he becomes a ghoul.
I guess.
Now, Full Moon movies could be a top 10 on its own.
Honestly, I don't have any top Full Moon in my top 10, but I could go through a top 10 Full Moon any day of the week, and that would also have to include like the Empire Pictures stuff and the stuff that MGM did prior to Full Moon being developed, stuff like Ghoulies and everything like that. But none of those made it on my top 10, believe it or not. I love those movies. I've got a very, very fond memories of all those Full Moon movies. Used to get them religiously from the video store, but none of them made my top 10 list. Surprisingly, I'm actually surprised myself right now. But it's just like, again, we're in the top 4 now. Every movie's there for a reason.
Exactly.
Now, something came to mind. Again, this is an era that I wasn't watching this type of movie very much. But did Puppet Master cross over with another franchise?
Killer Toys or
Demonic
Dangerous
Toys.
Toy. There you go.
Okay, I'm picturing like Video Shelf and seeing Puppet Master crossed with like Meet Something or I was drawing it. I wanted to say it was Doll Man, but I didn't. That didn't.
Doll Man also fights the Demonic Toys. Doll Man versus Demonic Toys is a good movie. Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys is not a good movie.
Okay.
Not a good movie. It was made after. It was made kind of after Full Moon kind of had their fall from grace. Corey Feldman is the star, and he's like got gray brushed into his hair to look like some 20-year-old girl's dad, and it's just like, ugh, it's awful. It's terrible.
Wow.
No stop motion animation at all in the puppets. Like, it's beyond that. They're just, waving them around in the background, and it's just,
Jeez. All right.
the real stinkers.
Well, I'm going to round out the top 5 for my 5. It's from 1979, David Cronenberg with The Brood.
Yeah.
And anything David Cronenberg does.
Anything David Cronenberg does is great, though. That's what I mean. It's hard to call that a B movie. It's just so good.
Well, this is the beginning, so it wasn't a wide release,
No, you're right. Yeah, it would classify, but I just love that movie so much, and be like, how could you call it a B movie? It's not to me, damn it, it's not to me. But it's like it's eating me up inside. But it is. I'm not going to deny that. It's.
Well, then Jake, start us off with the top 4. What do you got for your top 4? Your number 4.
My number 4 is I'm going to pay homage to the Godfather of gore, Herschel Gordon Lewis, with 1963's Blood Feast.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's you know what I mean. Like that was possibly the first B movie of all time. Like, that movie was amongst the first gore films, first exploitation, like gore exploitation films of its time, and the one that really, really got people's attention and turned people onto, the horror genre, transforming from being, spooky shadows in the night to, meat grinders, and he ushered in the whole, Italian splatter era with that film.
That was a great film.
Yeah,
that's one that I've always heard reference to a lot, but I've never actually watched it.
You gotta.
I've heard his name here and there, but never seen one of his movies.
Oh yeah, the Godfather of horror.
Yeah, the Godfather of gore.
Gore.
Not just horror. He's the Godfather of gore. He has lots of blood and guts. But the thing about Herschel Gordon Lewis is that not only was he a genius in terms of making horror films, but he was also a true genius in the field of direct marketing. He has many published books about marketing and about selling products, and that is essentially what he did. Is he found the marketability of horror films and he made it work. And I actually had a conversation with him once before he passed on at Fan Expo, and I interviewed him on camera, my own camera, just for shits and giggles. And I started talking to him about marketing, not about horror films, and we actually had a really good conversation about it. And he wished me well, and he said that I would go far in life, but I never ever took a job in marketing, so I guess I let him down. But I'm still involved with horror, so I mean,
You're in the pool.
I'm in the good graces.
There you go. Jason, number 4.
Number 4. Now, this movie did get mentioned very, very early on, but not on a list. So it is 2006's Slither.
You put it on there, didn't you?
I had to put it on there because that movie was great. It was the first introduction to James Gunn's work for me.
Yep.
Because I wasn't familiar with any of his like early trauma stuff or anything like that. And it really stands out. It was something different. The characterizations were a little different, and the dialogue. And I was also, I think, the first introduction for me, at least for Nathan Fillion, I think. So yeah, I had to include it.
I left it off just because I didn't want to put it on there because that one I consider gave him a career, just like Eli Roth, Cabin Fever gave him a career. So I don't consider them B movies.
Again, it kind of flew under the radar, so that's why I was able to include it.
I think great. Yeah, B movie is a subjective term as well, right? I mean, it's a B movie for you, and I totally respect that. I mean, I saw that movie in a packed theater in a multiplex on a weekend, so that was, to me, I was like, there's no way I can consider this a B movie because, like, man, it was so great. But I think a lot of the people in the theater probably hated it and walked out, or also went home and said, man, I just went to the theater and I saw a B movie. So there you go. Right.
One of the key elements too is it doesn't do well in the box office, and I just realized it cost $15 million to make and made $12.8 million, so it technically lost money.
Yeah, and so which is why they never let him make a sequel. But that movie got him that, and Super got him the gig with Marvel.
I absolutely love Super. Like, probably my favorite movie of his outside of Guardians.
Yeah, Super's a great movie.
I don't think I've watched Super. I'm gonna have to watch that.
You know what? It would be an interesting revisit with the whole Elliot Page thing
definitely.
That would be because there's a scene where spoiler alert,
what it is. Call it what it is.
There's a scene where she rapes Rainn Wilson, right? Yeah, there you go.
Yep, it happened.
Yeah, there's a scene where she rapes him, but I mean, like, now that that the scene must take on a whole new context now, right? Like, that's
it definitely gets weird. Any releases of that film now, they would have to credit them as Elliot.
I don't know about that. That's not retroactive. You can't go back in time and change who a person was. I think going forward, I accept and embrace the change to Elliot, but I don't agree with moving back in time and saying, no, now it's going to be someone else. They didn't do it with Bruce Jenner in the Village People movie. He's still credited as Bruce Jenner.
All right.
That's true. There you go.
So
James, number 4.
My number 4, just like Jason had to put Slither on his, which is cool, I had to put Wolf Cop on mine.
There you go.
Yep.
Wolf Cop was the number 10 that I bumped out.
Oh, nice.
I bumped out Wolf Cop for Jason X earlier on. So Wolf Cop is an honorable mention for me.
Is that 2016, I think?
2014. I think the sequel is probably 2016. Another Wolf Cop.
Which I still haven't watched. I've got my hands on it, but I haven't watched it yet.
What, the first one or the second one?
The second one.
Oh, okay.
Well, my top 4 are the ones I watch all the time. Okay? And my number 4 from 1981, The Evil Dead.
Yep.
That.
Okay.
Oh, the original?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
I
okay.
included that whole trilogy as my number one.
Okay.
That whole trilogy is my number one.
Spoiler alert.
I would include part 2 and 3, not the first part.
What? Oh.
That's a hard sell for the same thing. Like it's hard because I'm trying to think of movies that are my B grade, and again, the Evil Dead movies are my A grade. That's my A grade movies, man.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's so hard.
Yeah,
But but you're right. It needs to be acknowledged. It's a great movie.
Shoestring budget, and look what
Yep.
they did with it. You know.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it still works today.
Yes.
100%. I will take the original over
Oh,
that remake.
Oh, you're
any day
kidding
of the
me.
week.
Oh my
Oh.
God, you've got to be kidding me.
Oh no! Any day of the week.
The original is
Whoa.
awful. Oh,
Are you
the-
joking me, man? Yeah. Get rid of them. What?
The original is awful.
We
No.
lost his connection there for a second.
Oh, it's the strangest thing.
It happens every week, doesn't it, James?
Yeah.
Every week. You gotta
I've
test your-
always been against big tech censorship, but I'm starting to warm up to it right now.
Okay, number 3, Jake. What's your number 3?
My top 3 are tough because it's hard to put them in. The top 3 were the ones, and you said rewatchability, movies that I watched over and over and over and over and over again, and I really struggled to put them in a category, like to rank them.
It's like pick
So-
your favorite child, right?
That's easier than that was, you know what I mean? Like, hands down, it's the one that watches horror movies with me, of course.
Fair enough. There you go.
But okay, so my number 3 movie, and I'm just deciding on this now. 1987, Jim Muro's Street Trash, with the Tenafly Viper melting hobos and the hobo camps and the wars and the greasy New York City bums, and oh man, that movie is just, it's got everything. It's got melting bodies. It's got, you know, severed penis football. It's got non-flashbacks. It's got grizzled New York City cops being misogynistic and belligerent to people in the street, and it's just with a real cop. I'm pretty sure in the role, and like it's just, man, it's such a sign of the times movie. So much fun, and it was one of those movies that was like you heard about it forever, and you had to like. Somebody had to hook you up with a copy. You couldn't go to the video store. It was one of those video nasties that was like kept under lock and key, or you saw it and it was like censored and you're like, what is this? Or you watch the Japanese version and everything's blurred out, but then your buddy gives you like a 3rd generation tape and you pop it in and you see him melt into the toilet, and you're like, whoa. And everything was like, that movie is what every new movie that references the 80s and the 80s horror movie boom, that's what those movies are striving to be, with the neon colors and the vibrant, bright everything. So Street Trash, definitely seen it 100 times. Air Support, you gotta love it, and it's funny, and it's just offensive. James Lorenz is in it in a cameo as the doorman at the restaurant, and he's hilarious in it too. And it's just an all around great movie made by those same guys, same group of guys, you know, in New York that were making movies back in the day. Jim Murrow and you know, yeah, all those guys. New
You know
York
what?
guys.
You're 100% right, though. The first time I watched it was a tape a buddy gave me.
Yeah,
And you could tell it was like a 5th or 6th generation because it was
Yep.
all digitized and the whole bit.
Can't say I've heard of this one.
Oh, yeah.
you had to get a buddy. You'd have to have a secret handshake to get to see it almost. You know,
Pretty
and
darn close.
and it's out now. I think Synapse put out like a deluxe super special edition, but it's one of those movies that just massive cult following, and just you watch it and it's just the rudest, most offensive movie, and you revel in it. It's like a roller coaster where the guy in front of you keeps spitting, you know.
Yeah.
You're having fun, but you're also getting spit on at the same time. That's what Street Trash is.
Nice.
Okay. Jason, number 3.
See, I I almost feel like I should not have even gotten involved in this topic. I really feel like I really feel like a lot of my selections they're just not worthy here. But you know, I had to make do. You know, I want to be a part of the show.
You're
Damn
doing
it.
great.
I want to interject before you start that though, but I think that even by saying that it doesn't belong, that puts it in the category. That's what a B movie is a movie where you're like, this movie doesn't fit into, you know, a list. This movie doesn't fit into a specific, you know, genre, because again, even a lot of these movies, even a movie like Street Trash, somebody's gonna say that movie wasn't a horror movie. I didn't get scared once. There wasn't a monster. There wasn't this. Like that's the glory of the genre, is that it transcends any specific trope.
Mm-hmm.
So have at it, man. I've been loving your list so far, and I want to hear more.
Well, my number 3 is from 2014. And again, I know very few people who have actually watched this movie, but I love it. Cooties.
Ha!
Oh, I've heard of it. I've heard of it.
God, it just
With Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood and Rainn
Yep.
Wilson. Rainn Wilson is freaking gold in this movie.
Yeah, and Jack McBrayer's in it too.
Yes, that's who I couldn't remember who that guy was.
Yeah.
Jack McBrayer. Yeah, just there's something about infected kids that are just terrifying, but it's also pretty hilarious, you know? So, what's not to love? And again, I don't know very many people who've actually watched this movie, so that puts it as a B movie for me.
Absolutely. That's a movie that I think that it got greenlit and it got some backing, and a lot of the backing I think came from the actors within it. A lot of those guys, and you're seeing a lot of films being made now where it's like, you know, a comedian or comedians or somebody who's in the film business making a movie with their buddies. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But they have way more resources than, you know what I mean, me and my buddies who are making a movie. But it's the same kind of movie, and then the studio sees it and goes, we're not putting that thing out, and then it goes to it plays on Tubi or something, you know. But that movie is just, it is really good. It's a lot of fun.
It's so hilarious, and now I need to revisit it because it's been a while. Damn it!
Yeah.
Perfect.
It is on Tubi, I'm pretty sure, so you can watch it. Check it out.
There we go. Jake, number 2.
My number 3. Number 3.
Yes.
Is from 2013. It stars Ray Wise, Greg Grunberg, and Claire Kramer. It is called Big Ass Spider.
I don't think I've seen that one.
I never saw Eight-Legged Freaks, but this one jumped out at me, literally, and it's a lot better than I expected it to be.
I think I'm going to look that one up.
There's
Sorry?
Oh, the guy who made that film, Mike
Mendez.
Yeah, Mike Mendez. He made a movie called The Convent just before Big Ass Spider, which it's an absolutely super fun movie with Adrienne Barbeau, and it's like a classic demon possession movie with a bit of that attitude that is in Big Ass Spider is the same attitude, the same filmmaking attitude that is in Convent. So I think you'd really dig it.
I think I remember seeing that on the shelf when I worked at Rogers.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a video treasure.
I'm very curious. How did Adrienne Barbeau look?
Absolutely stunning.
Oh.
Yeah, she aged well.
She had a nice tight, like little leather jacket, pushing them right up, and she was blasting nuns in the face with a shotgun. So how could you not love that?
See,
okay, I'm sold. I'm gonna find this movie.
I don't usually look up a recommendation from James, but this one I think I actually might.
Big Ass Spider is great. Big Ass Spider is an awesome movie. Everything from Mike Mendez is great in its own way. Like he really has his own style and personality to his films, and I'm surprised that he didn't do what James Gunn did. I'm surprised that he didn't take off into bigger film roles, and he still might.
Yeah, sometimes it's right place, right time. You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
My number 3 is a classic. I love the remake, but I love the original for totally different reasons. 1978's Dawn of the Dead.
Oh. Beautiful movie.
Was very close to having that on my list.
Yes.
Very close.
You look at what that film did at that point. It's just, if I was in a zombie apocalypse, that's exactly where I would go, is a mall.
It was because you've been conditioned to do that from watching the movie.
I think so. Actually,
That wasn't a movie; it was a documentary.
training
Yeah.
guide.
Yeah. I can't in good faith put that on a list of B movies. Again, same thing. Like, and I feel you on that, but it's just I love that movie so much. It's like that's like my like Oscar picks movies. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to avoid movies that I think would belong in a museum, and that movie belongs in a museum. Man, it's so
Oh,
good.
it does.
It does.
What I did with my research is it's like I looked up B grade horror movies and then I picked out all the wicked titles I knew I watched a lot. It's like, okay, I'm just going to whittle it down from this.
Yeah.
And yeah, it technically falls under it, but yeah, I love it.
I know. It's just it. And I think I'm a B grade human being now.
Well, Jake, let's check out your number 2.
Number 2, I'm going back to Trauma, and I'm going to pick out which I would say is the greatest Trauma movie of all time from 1999, Lloyd Kaufman's magnum opus, Terra Firma. Terra Firma was it is a film about making a film, so it's about making a B movie, working on a trauma set, and then with a killer on the set murdering the cast and crew of a trauma movie in a very traumatic fashion, and it flips the entire every myth and legend about being on the set of a trauma movie is exposed, and all of the horrible things you hear about working on a trauma set are brought and placed in the forefront of this movie. And Lloyd Kaufman plays the director of the movie, who's blind. He's a blind movie director, which in itself is funny because sometimes a trauma movie looks like it was directed by a blind person, but but I mean, it really is, and it embodies the spirit of independent filmmaking, and it exposes the horrible world of independent filmmaking. It touches on everything from like the media's treatment of independent filmmakers to the audience, to cast, to it's like watching a filmmaking course and a horror movie at the same time. It's beautiful, and it would have been my number 1 movie if it wasn't for my number 1 movie.
Fair enough. Okay, Jason, number 2.
Okay, now I have changed my number 2. Now, originally I was going to have Death Proof. Okay, I know it's not technically a B movie, but it's an homage to B movies and Grindhouse. Yes, I love the hat.
Yeah.
But I decided no, it's too well known to make this list. So I'm going to go to 2019, a little known badass flick called VFW.
Yeah.
God, that movie just popped up, and I took a shot. And man, it was so badass. Stephen Lang, Martin Cove, Richard Roundtree, William Sadler, just tearing guys up. And it's awesome and brutal.
Yeah. It's a really, really cool movie.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And it's super violent. Like it's one of those it was a bit of a surprise. It was a sleeper. It did a small festival rounds, but I think it was one of those Draft House movies that ended up getting picked up by, I don't know if it was Fangoria or one of those companies like that. But you can see it on Shudder now. I think it's available on Shudder.
I'm pretty sure I talked about it when I first watched it, and I watched it like when it first dropped on home video, kind of thing.
Yep.
It came up. I think I saw it on pay-per-view originally or something. I can't remember. But I absolutely loved it. And yes, I highly recommend it. If you want to see a nice, ultra-violent badass, just some old war veterans fighting for their turf, you're not going to lose with VFW.
Yeah. And you know what? It's one of those movies where, I mean, it is a horror film, but it's only a horror film because of the extreme level of violence in that movie.
Exactly.
And it's just so violent that, like, you can't classify. It's not an action movie anymore when it gets to that level of violence.
When the gore reaches a certain point, it's into horror.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I got to check that one out.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it. I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it. You're safe.
Good. James, number 2.
My number 2 is from 2007. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It stars Steven Dorff. It's called Botched. And
No.
it involves he's a bank robber who botches a bank job, and to make up for it, he has to rob a Russian penthouse in Moscow, and the robbery doesn't exactly go well, and they have to take hostages, and they start getting attacked by this crazy psycho, and one of the hostages, it's a guy, and then one of the hostages is a girl, and they are brother and sister, and they both believe that they're descendants of Ivan the Terrible, and it's just crazy, insane, the stuff that these guys go through, just surviving from floor to floor and like getting killed left and right by this guy. This crazy guy dressed in an old Russian garb with a big sword and stuff. Oh, it's insane.
Okay,
Called
that sounds
Bot-
interesting.
Botched.
I've not heard of it, but it does sound interesting.
I like Steven Dorff. I haven't seen him for a
Yeah,
while.
I was going to say Steven Dorff deserves to be, he deserves more work.
Yes.
They did him dirty with that Alone in the Dark movie.
Oh, the first one, I liked that one. But he's not a big part of it.
Yep.
Well, my number 2, I think, is the epitome of the B-grade horror movie, next to the Tomatoes movie,
Yeah.
But I watched this one far more. 1988's Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Nice.
I will acknowledge that it is an iconic B movie, but I could not, in good conscience, include it on my list. It doesn't hold that kind of spot for me.
I've never actually seen the whole thing, so I couldn't include it.
Man.
I didn't include it because I knew somebody else would. I was like, I mean, when you think of B movies, you think of movies like Killer Clowns from Outer Space and like Motel Hell and like all that stuff that came out in that time, which were, but it's such a high concept movie too. And I think that also, plays into a little bit where, the title alone is B movie, right?
Yeah, they just put it out on Front Street. This is what you're getting. They're
Even
killer
the
clowns,
logo,
and they are from outer space.
The letter font that they use in the logo describes the movie. It's just... Yeah.
Isn't that another one they're talking about, a remake or something?
Sequel, actually.
An actual sequel.
And I think it's actually being developed now as a series for Sci-Fi. With the original, with the Kyoto brothers are actually going to be spearheading it and doing all the effects again. Those guys actually have been pretty prolific doing effects for movies and stuff. They actually worked on, I can't remember what's called, the Big Crayon Box or something. It was a kids show that they developed for years and years. They ran a kids TV show for years and years. And then before that, they made cotton candy cocoons and drinking people's blood. And I remember as a kid. And seeing Killer Clowns from Outer Space at my buddy Adam's house in his trailer, and he lived in a trailer park, and we watched it on VHS, and then we like sat there and we drew pictures and we like conceptualized the sequel in our own heads. And I was like, in part 2, they got these helmets on so you can't crush their noses, so you got to like pop their big shoes was the way to do it. And there's a giant one, they use a monster truck, and I had like this whole story that I drew in pictures, me and my buddy, and we like made our own sequel. But that in itself, like again too, that's what makes a great B movie, is that it inspires a generation.
Do you by any chance still have any of those notes or pages or anything?
No.
I
sold them to Hollywood. So
yeah.
So that's what we're getting in this new sequel series, whatever that's called.
Yeah, written by an 8-year-old. It's going to be awesome.
Okay. Why not? There was a show called Axe Cop that was written by an 8-year-old, so why not?
My kid loves Axe Cop.
All right, we are now into the top movie. Jake, what's your number 1?
Okay, my number 1 is a movie that I can probably say that maybe none of you, or maybe even none of you, and none of your, a lot of listeners out there, hopefully somebody's seen it, but a lot of people probably haven't seen it because this movie has not been released, I don't think, ever ever. And it's a Warner Brothers movie from 1973 called Wicked Wicked. And the whole idea behind Wicked Wicked is that it was shot in a new style of filmmaking that required special projection equipment in the theater. And it wasn't 3D, it was anamorphic duovision. And the entire movie was basically split screen. So you'd have the movie happening on one side, and then the same movie from a different perspective happening on the other side of the screen. And you watch the movie from the perspective of the killer and the perspective of the victim at the same time. And
interesting.
It's I think actually if you look at, you can find, I think Warner Archive sells like DVDRs of it or something, but it's censored. But I used to have a theatrical 35 millimeter print of this movie. I got it in a storage locker that I bought one time. And we played it at a vagrancy show in London, a midnight movie. We're just like, it sounds great. I've never heard of it. Wicked, Wicked, let's play it. And it was the greatest experience of my life. It's an amazing movie, nonstop action, laughs, thrills, chills. And what happens is sometimes the movie like breaks the fourth wall. So there's like an old lady playing the score to the film on an organ on one side of the screen while the movie's happening on the other side of the screen. And then there's like an old lady that's like telling a story about, you know, how she was famous and she's no longer famous, and that she, you know, is getting royalty checks. But then on the other side of the screen, it's like exposing her lies and showing her in strip clubs. And like, it's just, it's so funny. Like it works. It works, but it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that, and I think the director of the film planned a second movie in anamorphic duovision, but it never was made because it was just such a failed idea. But the movie holds up. It's unbelievable. You can probably watch clips of it there's clips on YouTube and the trailers on YouTube and stuff. It stars Tiffany Bowling from the Candy Snatchers, who is absolutely stunning, gorgeous girl, sings the theme song to the movie and a few other songs, sings some show tunes in the movie. They're also very, very bad. And it's another one of those movies where it exposes the killer early on, because you can see him on the other screen. You can see who the killer is. So the audience is on. It's a very, very rare occurrence where you expose the killer right away and it doesn't impede the rest of the film, because the rest of the movie plays out on the other screen and nobody has a clue what's going on. So you still get to go on that ride. And it's just, it's funny as a campy film, and it's funny and it's just amazing as a piece of cinema, and a piece of an accomplishment of cinema, really. And I mean, I'm a big Brian De Palma fan, and Brian De Palma often uses segments of split screen in his films. Phantom of the Paradise being probably my all-time favorite movie, and movies like, you know, Blowout, and you know, he uses split screen often, and this movie's entirely split screen. So it's like, wow, this is great. But there's a few scenes where the cops are like talking to a guy by the pool, and then on the other side they have nothing to show, so it's just like a guy putting mustard on his hot dog. It has nothing to do with anything. And they're just like, what are we gonna put over there? Just, you know, take a shot of the pool, somebody swimming.
Grab some stock footage.
Exactly. You know, so there, and that in itself, again, like, now you cherish that stuff. You're like, man, this is great. But Wicked, amazing movie. And I'd have to, I eventually sold my film print, but not before I sent it away and got it professionally scanned. So I actually have my 35 millimeter film on a hard drive, so I can watch it again in its wondrous 35 millimeter glory, the theatrical glory. Awesome. So I do watch it. I watched it I watched it right after you asked me to go on this podcast, because I was like, I got to be sure to put it on. And I was like, yeah, this is the one. So any way you can get your hands on it, get your hands on this movie. Wicked is just that. It's a wicked movie.
I have
nice.
Okay. Yeah. I missed this earlier, but Ryan Haskell commented here. As a kid, my number one has to be cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Chud!
Oh, Chud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Chud.
Yep. Chud was great. Chud was another one of these like art film horror films where it just it it broke the horror film moviegoer, and it broke the casual moviegoer, and it just kind of created its own monster, its own chud. And then they tried to sequelize it with Jarrett Graham, and they botched it, and it kind of ruined what could have been a great movie franchise with Chud 2, Bud the Chud, which was just a flop. Big flop.
That kind of killed it.
Yep.
Jason, we know your number one is the Evil Dead trilogy.
Yes, come on, the grand they stand.
Although technically the third one was a major company release.
But the third one's the worst of the group. The third one is
it's the best of the group.
No, the third one is the B movie. The third one is the one that is ridiculous and silly, and it goes even sillier than part two. Like the first movie,
it's certainly the funniest of them.
Okay, I'm gonna make an addendum then. Evil Dead 2. That is my number one.
No,
Evil Dead 2.
I would say that the trilogy being number one is very accurate, because I think that, and this argument goes all over the world, all over the internet, and they talk about it a lot in Hail to the Deadites, is that the iconic Evil Dead film for each person depends on which order they see them in, because those movies were not released dependent on the previous film. A lot of people saw Evil Dead 2 first because it was the one that got wider release, and it kind of recapped the first movie right away so that people didn't miss anything, and they kind of pitched it in that sense. And a lot of people loved that movie. A lot of people saw Army of Darkness not even knowing that Evil Dead existed, and Army of Darkness being the one that they cherish. And then there's some people who, saw Evil Dead and same thing, got that bootleg tape from someone, or had the cool, cousin or older brother who was like, "Hey man, check this out," and you saw it. And it's like, it really is like that. The Evil Dead trilogy is like the king, of B movie culture, and hail to the king, baby.
Yes.
Like it's
Bruce Campbell will always be the king of B. No one can ever take that title.
Well, honorable mention to the king of B movies himself, Mr. Beelzebub, who made a documentary about himself called King of the B movies, and his movies exist in a completely different genre. They can't touch this list, but he does deserve an honorable mention just by saying King of the B movies.
All right,
there we go.
Who's that?
Beelzebub. Beelzebub is a filmmaker originally from like the Jersey area, and I think now he resides in Texas. But he makes movies for a very specific niche audience. He's been called the Woody Allen of horror cinema, where he stars in his movies usually with 6 or 7 strippers who in between 8 to 10 minute long nude dances, he'll wax poetic for like a 15-minute monologue about existentialism or commercialism or anything. Super, super intelligent guy. And he makes some very, very, very like intelligently offensive movies where subjectively on the outside, and trust me, at Shockstock, we seek that stuff out. We look for movies that push boundaries and are made in an uninhibited fashion. And Beelzebub makes movies that can clear our audiences out of the room. There is a movie that he made.
That's what you strive for.
But I will say, over time, our audience has come to appreciate and kind of open their eyes and open their minds to what his work is, aside from the superficial aspects of it, and he is absolutely loved and appreciated by many, many people. He has a great career worldwide because of it, but it is definitely not for everyone. And if you want to start your Beelzebub excursion, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, there's a movie called The Worst Horror Movie Ever Made, and it is the worst horror movie ever made, but it is a lot of fun, and it is a good starter for Beelzebub movies. It's not too offensive. There isn't any, anything that's going to really challenge you personally. So it's an accessible movie. But to get off topic, King of the B movies, Beelzebub.
Just the words intelligently offensive. That's makes me curious.
Yeah.
Nice. One thing I will mention too about the Evil Dead in Hail to the Deadites, that's exactly one of the best documentaries I think I've seen on it. They mentioned there was a Dead movie every decade, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. That's why you have such a generational gap. You know, they weren't released within 3 years of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There wasn't people riding them out, so to speak.
Yeah. But yeah, you're cool. James, number 2.
Number one.
Number 1. I don't care.
My number one's from 2005. It was originally one of those Project Greenlight pictures. It's from John Gulager. It is called Feast. It is amazing. It's the only movie I've seen where every time a character pops up on the screen, there's a little title card that pops up with their name, occupation, age, and their life expectancy. And when they get to this one kid in a wheelchair, he pops up and the quote is like, "We wouldn't kill a kid, would we?" So naturally, he doesn't last the whole movie. But J. Muse plays himself in the movie. You've got Henry Rollins in there. It is so much fun. You even have a character named Hero Guy, who gets killed maybe 2 minutes after he appears on screen.
Okay, this sounds interesting.
It's also got Clu Gulager, who is John Gulager's father, who was from Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Other films, yeah. And Judah Freelander's in that movie as well, from 30 Rock.
He is, yeah. So is, yeah. Oh, yeah. It is so much fun.
It is a lot of fun.
The sequels, not so much, but this one is.
I agree with you. The sequels are not better than the original, but you can buy a triple feature of the 3 films, and I would suggest watching all 3 and make sure you watch the third movie right to the very end. Do not turn it off, because I think it has possibly the greatest surprise ending of any film ever. Of all time. The greatest surprise ending. I'm not saying anything to it. You won't see it.
I don't think I watched the third one because I was so disappointed by the second one.
You have to watch them all the way through, otherwise you don't get the payoff. And I think actually part 3 might be called the payoff or the money shot or something like that. And it really is. Like, I think it leads up. It all leads up to the last 8.5 seconds of the third movie. It's just like I watched it. I got it for Christmas. I got the DVD for Christmas when it first came out with the triple feature. And I remember it was Christmas night. So Christmas came and my kids got all their gifts. I opened them all up, spend time eating the turkey, all that stuff. Everybody's so tired and everyone goes to sleep. And I'm putting this DVD on and I ended up watching all 3 of them in a row. And by the time it was probably 3:45 a.m. and the third movie's playing and I'm so dead, barely awake, trying to stay up, and the movie ends and it hits you like a hammer, and I jumped out of my seat and I was like, yeah, and I woke my whole family up. My wife was like, what's going on? Dogs start barking and you're just oh, whoops. But yeah, that's
see, now I've done that kind of thing before, but number 2 was such a struggle to get through, I wouldn't have made it.
Was number 2 the one where they try to launch the grandma over the alleyway in the burlap sack?
I don't remember. I just remember there was some kind of fantasy sequence with Judah Freelander and Jenny Wade making out, and it was just, the movie was just so bad. And so it was sort of like they did it with the Dimension Extreme direct to videos, because they did Feast 2 and Feast 3, and they did Pulse 2 and Pulse 3. And they were direct sequels to the theatrically released movies, but they were such lower quality that it was just really tough to watch.
Okay. I survived a back-to-back-to-back viewing of the Human Centipede trilogy.
Oh, very
I think
nice.
I could survive Feast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could.
When I was 13 years old, I watched all 6 or all 7 of the original Planet of the Apes movies in a row without eating, and that was tough. That's a tough one.
That's early binging. That's
Yeah.
Or you can marathon all of the Puppet Master movies. I'm talking all of the Puppet Master movies.
No.
No, you've sold me on this Feast thing, though.
Feast is
I
great.
gotta check this out.
Feast is absolutely great.
Yeah.
My number one, it's one of my favorites since I was young, 1983. And it's because I got to watch it with a friend of mine, and we got to experience the twist at the end of it, and it's been one of our classics. And thanks to this gentleman here, I got to meet the main star, Felissa Rose. And Sleepaway Camp is the epitome of the B-grade horror to me.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Me either.
Oh,
It's the second best twist ending of any movie.
next to Feast, apparently.
Next to Feast 3. You got to watch part 3.
Oh, yeah. This is,
By now, the twist is well known and all. So, but that's just another one that it was the era that I wasn't watching those types of movies, so I never did check it out.
Man, that movie is so good, and it had such terrible sequels.
Yeah.
And that's where that's another a testament to a great movie is when it has those churned out monster sequels that are just, you know what I mean? Like they capitalized on it, but it wasn't capitalized to the point where they wanted to invest money, like Nightmare on Elm Street. The studio was like, yeah, we'll give you a lot of money to make the next ones. But like Sleepaway Camp, people loved it, but nobody wanted to touch it. So they were just like, oh, we'll just make another one with breadcrumbs, and that's a B movie. That's where it's at.
Now, one thing I find fascinating about Sleepaway Camp, though, is it's as well known as it is. There's memes that are still making the regular rounds from images from that movie, particularly in regards to the twist.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is still a popular meme, still used. Like that says something about its longevity and its impact.
I found it.
Film viewers.
I found it. Feast 3 is called The Happy Finish.
The Happy Finish.
There we go.
Feast 2 is called Sloppy Seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
all fitting titles. All fitting titles.
Excellent.
But speaking of memes, and I'll make another quick trivia tidbit here. But my kids, who are young, I got a 14-year-old and 11-year-old and stuff, and they live and breathe memes. Like memes are a thing, right? Like it's like over my head. I don't get memes or whatever. But they're talking about memes, and then they show me a meme that's very popular of a guy like jumping out a window. And it's from Wicked. It's from my number one movie. And I was like, how is that? But I mean, like, it's so nobody thought it was from anything. They just thought it was a meme. But I was like, no, it's from this movie.
That's awesome.
So there you go. I'll have to send it to you. And
please do.
I'll meme you. I'll meme you with that one.
We're gonna get memed.
Yep.
Awesome. Anyway, Jake, thank you so much for joining us on this show. This was a blast.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Oh,
and very informative. Like for such an odd topic, like because it's a niche market and all.
It's my life, dude.
I assumed, but holy cow!
There's a lot of history.
Absolutely, and I could go through like I said, 100 top 10. Anything you come up with another subgenre or any kind of horror top 10, and I've got probably 15 or 20 at least for any list you want me to go through, and I'd love to come back. So
our next one is zombie strippers.
There we go.
We know too.
Well, there's more. You could say that what is it? The Grindhouse movie there with what's it? Not Death Proof, but the other one, Planet Terror.
Planet Terror.
She's a stripper who fights zombies. So there you go. That's a
That
zombie
is true.
and stripper movie. So there's lots of movies that'll go in. And like you can find those connections, but there's definitely zombie strippers would be a great one.
That's awesome.
Or zombie cheerleaders.
Oh,
Ooh.
Oh, All Cheerleaders Die, the Lucky
Yeah.
McKee movie.
Yeah, there's another one.
zombie
That
beavers.
one's amusing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then I got to bring up cheerleader ninjas, and I don't want to do
Oh
that.
God, don't bring up cheerleader ninjas.
I've seen that movie.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
I've never
All
heard
right,
of that one.
forget it. The list is off.
And on that note, for another week at the Movie Madhouse, I'm Rob.
I'm James.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Jake.
Yes, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
See y'all. Thanks for
Toodles.
having me again.
Shut up! It's a man!